This lethal mini crossbow bolt can be fired by most homemade micro and mini crossbows, including Sonic Dad's and Grant Thompson's Assassin micro crossbow shown here. Check out the description for a tutorial. More than your average cotton swab or matchstick ammunition, this super sharp mini bolt flies farther with more accuracy than its simpler counterparts. In this older video I shot some balloons from 23 feet away. The bolts also penetrate most surfaces, including a styrofoam board and this unlucky potato. They can be dangerous though, and if you're not careful you could end up like this guy. Adult supervision is recommended. Now that you've seen how awesome this mini bolt is, let's take a look at what we need to make it. For the bolt's shaft, you'll need some mini wood dowels with measurements around 0.2 by 6.67 centimeters. Make sure the ends are fairly round to make assembly a little easier. A sewing needle will be used for the bolt's super sharp tip. Last but certainly not least, you'll need an index card for the bolt's fletching. It doesn't matter if it's ruled or blank. DrumPimp.com is a one-stop shop where you can find the raw materials you need as well as these pre-made bolt vanes to help speed up the making process. Or if you want to skip the work and go straight to the fun, you can have some finished bolts sent right to you. You can find a link in the description. Now our tool list is a little bit longer. If you're not picking up some pre-drawn bolt vanes, you'll need a ballpoint pen and a ruler. A pin vise with a micro drill bit measuring around 0.8 millimeters will be used to drill the hole for the needle. A Dremel can speed up the drilling process and allow us to create the bolt's notch in 1/10 of the time. The cutting wheel you need is number 409. If you don't have a Dremel with a 409 cutting wheel, you'll need a hobby knife with a micro saw blade. Super glue, scissors, and multi-purpose glue will be necessary for the last few steps. Let's get started. For the first part, we'll need the pin vise with a 0.8 millimeter drill bit and our mini wood dowel. Find the end that's more circular and use your pin vise to create a shallow hole in the center. This is what it should look like. In this next step, we need to drill the hole to a depth of about ½ an inch. If you have a Dremel, you can use it with your 0.8 millimeter drill bit to shorten your drilling time. Turn the Dremel on a low speed and put the bit in the shallow hole you just made. Apply pressure as straight as possible to the drill bit. Slowly twirl the wood dowel on your fingers to help prevent the bit from going in diagonally and breaching the side. If you don't have a Dremel, you'll have to drill the hole manually with your pin vise. This step can be tricky at first, so if you don't get it immediately, don't give up. Now we're going to create the notch for our bolt. If you've got number 409 cutting wheels, put one on your Dremel. If you don't have one, this is where the saw blade and the hobby knife comes in. Our goal is to saw a line through the center of the end of the dowel about 2 millimeters deep. Take a look at mine for reference. If you're picking up ready-made bolt vanes, you can click this annotation to skip to the next step. If not, you'll need a pen, a ruler, and an index card. To make it easier to see, I'll show the process without using the actual lengths and show the correct dimensions after. Before we draw anything, we need to position our ruler parallel to our index card. This will help us judge our angles later on. Now we can draw a straight line measuring 1 centimeter long. We'll call this the baseline. 4 millimeters from the left end of the baseline, place a dot. Rotate the ruler and extend the dot into a 4 millimeter line perpendicular to the baseline. At the left end of the baseline, draw another perpendicular line measuring 2 millimeters going straight up. Use your ruler to connect the tops of these segments and the right end of the baseline. Again, at the left end, create a 3 millimeter line going straight down. At its tip, make a new baseline parallel to the original and then spin the index card upside down. Repeat the process on this new baseline to create the mirrored symmetrical shape that'll make our final bolt vane. Remember that instead of drawing your dot 4 millimeters from the left end of the baseline, make it 4 millimeters from the right end. Here's a picture of the dimensions. Once we've finished the drawing part, we can carefully cut out our new bolt vane. Cut along the outside of the lines to keep it consistent. Now is when we can add a bit of personalization to our project. Using a few markers and highlighters, we can create an endless array of unique, awesome looking designs. Here's a bunch of colored bolts that I made for some examples of what you can do. Coloring your bolt vanes not only makes them look cool, but it also allows you to spot them easier if you happen to lose track of them while shooting. During this step, we'll attach the bolt vane to the wooden dowel. Before we glue anything though, let's bend our bolt vane around the dowel to get it into shape. Be careful not to bend the vane too far, only the middle section should be curved. Now let's put a little glue on the middle section. Try not to use too much like I almost did right here. Position the vane so that the broad V shape faces upwards when the notch is horizontal. The two halves of the vane should be about the same length. When looking at the bottom of the bolt, the vane should look horizontal and not diagonal. When glued properly, this is what it will look like. Alright everyone, this is our last step. Use a pair of wire cutters to cut off the eye of the needle and trim it to a length of about an inch. This way, half the needle will be in the bolt and the other half will be the bolt's head. Check the length of the needle to make sure it's not too long. This length here looks just right. When you're ready, coat the dull half of the needle in superglue and insert it into the dowel. Put a small drop of glue on the tip to increase the bond strength. Congratulations, your Assassin's Mini Crossbow bolt is finished. After 30 minutes of drying, you can test it out with some target practice. Have fun! If you liked this video, check out some of my other cool projects. I'd also really appreciate it if you subscribed, liked, commented, shared, and whatever else awesome people do. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next time.